In the minute taking process.
Okay. Well, then I vote yes.
Okay. The motion passes unanimously with all trustees present.
Thank you very much. After this discussion and clarification. Item 4, public comment. Do we have anyone from the public wishing to address the committee?
I have nothing.
You have nothing. I know of nothing. We will move on to reports. Item 5A. Mr. Liu, you're up.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chair Robbins and committee trustees. Some items of interest for you this month. The first item concerns whether defined benefit plans are still a useful recruiting tool. So according to a founder of a firm that deals with RFPs, he indicates that it may be in the private sector a forgotten benefit and an underappreciated one. As we know, in the private sector, there's been a downward trend in defined benefit plans. Fewer and fewer companies are using them, although large companies still, sponsor them, such as, big banks or energy procuring companies. A lot of these are household names like JP Morgan or ExxonMobil. And currently, there are about $3.7 trillion in private sector pension assets. 86% of them are pretty healthy, and they're expected to achieve full funding shortly. So I think one of the reasons that different generations have different views about it is that with the defined contribution plan, you can easily see what your account balance is. Whereas with a pension plan, it's more abstract. You really don't know until you actually retire what that benefit is. And so, given some of the trends with, private sector where people change jobs a lot and they don't stay with one employer for, 30, 40 years, it's been more difficult for people in the private sector to see what the value of that is compared, say, with the public sector, where, again, people still tend to have a sense of longevity with the companies that they work for. The next item is regarding Alaska. Since 2006, Alaska had moved away from a pension plan to a 401k plan. And interestingly, it's the only state system that does not offer a pension plan, only offers a defined contribution plan. But as you know, in recent years, they've had a lot of challenges recruiting and retaining. So there's been a bipartisan coalition in Alaska to create a new pension tier and also allow workers in the current DC plan to switch over. The new tier doesn't include retiree health care, but it will provide a reimbursement account for them to cover premiums. And so the contribution rates are tied to stock market. And then also COLAs can be given as long as I think the plan is more than 90% funded. On the other hand, North Dakota seems to be possibly going the way of Alaska, where they are considering getting rid of their pension plan. There's currently 2 competing bills there, where the Senate bill seeks to preserve the pension plan, but the House bill is trying to put new hires into a defined contribution plan. So the bills are expected to end up in a conference committee. And interestingly enough, it's been 10 years since PEPRA was enacted, and PEPRA 2 was created through a conference committee. I just look back in history, and it's interesting. It was over a 2-week period that PEPRA was created and enacted and put into law. The next item is from the Public Policy Institute. I think their surveys are really useful in understanding the sort of heartbeat of the California population. So they're looking at the economic impact after the end of the COVID emergency, which has happened in the end of February. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people were, worried about their health and economic well-being, especially those with lower incomes. And then in the early months of the pandemic, there were strong majorities that approved of the governor's handling of the outbreak and the jobs in the economy. And, his approval didn't dip below 50% at that point. There's also economic pessimism. In that first few months of pandemic, it went from 43% to 79% as far as Californians expecting bad economic times. And currently in the latest survey, about 66% of Californians are expecting bad times. There were also job losses and there were recoveries as well, but not in the same sectors. So for example, in sectors such as food service and entertainment, those that require in-person interactions, those that are still having challenges in recovery. And then at the same time, demands and goods also had supply chain challenges. As far as there was about $100 billion in stimulus payments and benefits, in that first year of the pandemic. So, in May 2020, about 30% of Californians said they were financially worse off. By November 2021, when a lot of people started receiving government benefits, only 18% reported being worse off. A year later, now that I think a lot of the benefits have tapered off, about 29% now report that they're feeling worse off. And then the last item is about California's views of Governor Newsom. So, a large majority of Californians and likely voters approve of his handling of his job, and he's got positive ratings in dealing with different challenges such as the job, the budget, the environment, and education. And of course, there's a partisan divide in the views of the governor. About 83% of Democrats approve of him doing his job, 55% of independents, and 12% of Republicans. And also the three issues that are foremost in Californians' minds are the economy, housing affordability, and climate change. And then lastly, Californians are optimistic that the governor and the legislature can work together, which kind of stands to reason given that, sort of a one party holding the governorship and the legislature. So that concludes my report, and happy to take any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Liu? Not seeing any. We will go to item B, staff activities report for March.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. While there's nothing on the staff activity report, I do want to inform you of a backlog within retiree healthcare with our enrollments. I am in that process of assessing, have a meeting scheduled with the supervisor over our enrollment unit to find out exactly how we may strategize to correct this backlog or get it addressed. What brought my attention to it is I regularly look at the queues. I noticed, for example, for the month of March, we started with over almost 7,300 documents on file. And I'm looking at the ending and we're still ending up with almost 7,500. And I'm like, how can that be? Staff is working, and I'm looking at the completed staff almost completed 3,000, but we still have over 7,000. So I just wanted to give you a heads up in the event that any of you receive calls. We are aware of it. We're working on it, and we're trying to prioritize the ones that need addressing, which mainly are the Medicare ones, because those do have to go through Social Security or Medicare for approval. We're addressing it. I will be talking with the staff later, and I can get back to the committee with what our outcome is for that. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions? Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. It's good morning.
Good morning.
Is the issue of vacancies? Do we need additional staff? I know based on the report that I read that actually this year the retirement petitions have decreased. And there's reasons why people speculate as to why. But so I don't understand, because retiree healthcare is really, really important.
Well, I shouldn't say for some reason, but I do see that we receive quite a bit of different changes. I haven't narrowed it down to, are those specifically plan changes, or does that also include and may include additional dependents, taking dependents off, whether they're moving out of the service area and they do need to change plans, or what the backlog, where it's coming from. I have seen also where members are having difficulty enrolling or filling out the forms, where we may get forms in, but it's not complete. It could be missing a signature, and that could be they're rushing to get it back to us, or they just forget to sign it in certain areas. The Medicare enrollment form does require several signatures on there. And so we're seeing that one particular page, many members skip, and we have to send that document back to them to complete and send back to us. We have quite a few documents that are in the delayed process. The delayed process are the ones that we receive where we don't have a marriage certificate, a birth certificate. We haven't received the verification for Medicare. And so we send a additional request notice to them, letting them know that we need these documents in order to complete their enrollment. So we have many steps within there. We do send out notices to the members when we find that something's missing. Every 30 days, if we haven't received it, we send a reminder until it's exhausted. Normally over 3 months they've had, in addition to the time that they've submitted the documents to us initially.
So are you fully staffed? Is that what
You
I'm
may
trying to get at?
recall, we added 3 additional staff, which are in the call center. Prior to them coming on, the operations team, remember, we had to take from the operations team to help them answer the calls with our
Okay.
call center, because we only had 5 people in the call center. So we got the additional 3. They're now fully trained and taking calls as well. So now that delay in processing, where we took the operational team to help answer calls, is now catching up with us on the back end of the enrollment side.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask the CEO to comment on that. I mean, is it, what's going on? I hear what Ms. Smith is saying, but it appears to me that we need additional staff in there. And
I do have, you may recall in May 1st, we do have additional staffing coming in. We're hiring 5 more staff to come to retiree healthcare. And at that time, then they'll get trained up and we'll start making the adjustments going that way forward.
so we are on it.
Yeah, and if you recall, I think it was last month, it was last month, we asked for additional ordinance positions.
Right.
So that we can address these sort of issues and try to avoid them in the future, so that we can staff people, we can staff up as well as train them sooner rather than later. So
Right.
that's one of the steps that we took last month, but I believe
I
May
expect to
1st
get
will be
additional
full.
staff May 1st.
Of course, those 5 individuals need to be trained, which is about a 3 to 4 month training program.
So what I'm doing, what my plan is, and what I've done this most recent time, since we got the 3, there were a couple of people that we had assigned to the call center that was already trained, able to assist with enrolling. We were kind of using them as a hybrid where we needed them call center and processing. Since those new 3 people that we brought on already have come, we've switched those 2 people back over to operations to fully focus on enrollments, while we have the new 3 people taking the calls.
Yeah.
To help with the
And
calls.
through the chair, we are meeting with Cassandra this afternoon to talk about leveraging
Yeah.
some additional overtime, for example, so that we could address this particular issue.
Correct.
And so we're trying to pull every lever that we possibly can to address the backlog and the enrollment side of the healthcare.
Yeah.
Good.
division.
Thank you. I just want to make sure you have the tools. And it seems like it's being worked out, because in my view, retiree healthcare is very
Very
important.
important. Yes.
Make sure that figure out how to help our members, because some of those forms are complicated.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, we've done what we could as far as putting things on the website, tutorials, telling them how to, and fill out the form. We still have members that call in through our call center that request help with filling out the forms, which makes the call longer, but it's okay as long as we get them, to fill out the form and get it into us. But those are challenges that we have.
Thank you.
Vivian?
I was gonna suggest, and this is related to the retiree healthcare enrollment. I know you have tutorials. Can there be a page by page tutorial where you have the member sit down, look at the computer and go page 1? This is what it says, so that they can turn the page along with that video so that they'll know exactly how to do it. Because it is a complicated form. And when it's time for a signature on that tutorial, tell them, hey, sign that. I know that's probably a communications
Right.
suggestion, but maybe you could suggest it to them, because that would really help, instead of like Herman coming to sit down with you and saying, okay, help me with this. And that's exactly what you would do.
Yeah.
You would go page by page with it. So we could actually do it with the thousands of retirees who have to fill out that form.
That's definitely something for us to look at, to maybe include in our retiree healthcare packet when it goes out to them, or when we send out the forms, when they receive those forms, how to complete those forms and make sure that they're completed in their entirety before they submit it to us. So I'll take that back as a action item.
Any other comments or concerns? I will just say for the record that our membership is all over the place when it comes to their knowledge and understanding of retiree healthcare. And I think that probably the one area that our members could spend more time at than anything right before they retire is not which option they're going to take on getting paid, but is understanding which option, what their options are with respect to retiree healthcare. I had a conversation with a female deputy who was about to retire, and she was under the impression that because she was not Medicare eligible, she would lose her insurance when she turned 65. I mean, the variation in understanding is
Yeah.
startling. I mean, we never tell anybody that. She was so relieved to know that, because she didn't have hired on before, the hit tax had an impact. She's not worked in the private sector. She doesn't have 40 quarters, needless to say. So she was afraid that she'd be without insurance.
Yeah.
So, but you're right, Vivian, it's complicated stuff. And to understand all the pros and cons and ins and outs and everything else is, it's a pretty formidable
Yeah.
deal on our part to try to get them all wired up, clued in and everything else. So.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any
That's it.
questions on it? Are you done with this item?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're now on item C, group dental and medical benefits. Audit results.
Oh,
Everybody's favorite topic, audits.
gotcha. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. It's good to be in person this time. As you know, we do this every single year with the dental and the medical audit reviews. My name is Amber Turner. I've been doing this since, I believe, 2017 that we started with you guys. So, and I will say that it is one of the plans that I get to audit that is fully insured. Again, I'm going to voice this, that I don't know how you guys pulled that off, but great job. Normally, the vendors will not let you audit fully insured plans. So, okay, so okay. So today we're going to talk about the dental claims audit, the results, findings, the medical claims audit, the results, findings, and the next steps. Okay, so for the Cigna audit, we did look at July 1st of 2021 through June 30th of 2022. This is a 12-month audit. In that claim sampling, there was 225 stratified claims, meaning that they were random. We did not find any errors in this particular audit, but we did want to point out an issue with the time to process. They did actually fall below the performance guarantee. You guys' performance guarantee is 93%. They actually achieved 90.38%.
Next slide. Just tell me when to advance and I.
Okay, so for the key findings on this, we did confirm that last year's issue, there was that issue with the personal protective gear code that was cleaned up. I did not find that anymore. But again, the performance guarantee failed. I did point out to them that it failed. Cigna let me know that they're getting around 91.5, which is still below your performance guarantee. I did let them know, you know, when are you guys going to be able to get that penalty fee? Because there is a penalty fee that's associated with failing this. They said they were, and this was in November, just to let you know, that they were working on, you know, processing that penalty fee for you guys. So as we look towards the medical audit, I want to just point out that Anthem did change its name. So they are now Elevance. But the same thing, we did 220 statistical random claims. And then we also did 35 targeted claims. The targeted claims were actually picked through an electronic analysis. The electronic analysis is normally because there could be an issue. So we do actually pull those by hand when in looking at reporting. The financial accuracy was at 99.64%, payment accuracy 98.17, 100% on the procedural, and then the overall processing accuracy was 98.17%. The time to process, the performance guarantee was 99.02. Now, to note, they did pass all of your performance guarantees that I'm looking at right now. But on another note, we can say that the statistical sampling does not include out of sample items and target items within that calculation, because the out of sample and targets are pretty much biased because we're digging. So if we look at how many errors were actually achieved in the statistical, there was 4 overpayments, 3 underpayments. The out of sample, we had 16 out of sample. You know, there's 15 underpayments and 1 overpayment. And then in regards to the target, we had 22 out of 35 in overpayments and 2 underpayments. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is I did map out where we found our audit findings and how much it calculated to. As we could see, the plan, the first chart that we're looking at is overpayments. The second chart is going to be underpayments. What we are looking at with the asterisks is the ones that actually represent what Elevance agreed to on the audit. There is a plan limit exceeded maximum that only affected 1 claim, but if we go back, it wasn't last audit, but it was audit before that. We did have that issue previously. The hearing aid limits, which is always an issue, duplicate claim payments. And then we had, you know, foot orthotics, pre-certification deductibles, and acupuncture over $30, and then out-of-network preventative overpaid. For the underpayments, I had a deductible that over-applied, outpatient surgery co-payment, out-of-pocket over-applied, Medicare coordination was off, and then there was a deductible applied to a prevent claim. The actual, if you could look, and it looks daunting, but I could say this, In regards to the out of pocket and the deductible over applied, it's actually because the pharmacy is included in that out of pocket maximum. So there is a coordination that's happening there that, they have to go back and find those and re-adjudicate them once they happen. But, nonetheless, it is an issue, but they are working on it. So,
Amber, Steve Murphy.
Yeah.
Great job so far. I just wanted to point out to the committee that the top issue with regard to overpayment was related to exceeding the maximum plan limit. And Amber correctly identified the fact that it's a result of coordination between pharmacy and medical, and there are some delays because they're two different organizations. And so again, we've seen this before and we talked about it at the offsite, but there's a tangible example of another claimant who's kind of exceeded that lifetime maximum threshold and kind of would have found out after the fact. So I just wanted to point that out.
okay, so our next steps, and thank you, Steve. Our next steps on this, with Cigna, we recommend that LACERA confirm with Cigna that the penalty amount was dispersed. And then with Elevance, we recommend that, LACERA discusses with Elevance an action plan in regards to all the categories that are in error that we're seeing repeating. I know they are working on some of this though, and they are starting to put action plans into play. So does anybody have any questions?
I've got a question. It's Ron Oakham. That $20,000 overpayment, was that above the maximum amount allowed? What was that overpayment about?
Yeah, that is actually, there's that one indemnity plan that has $1 million that they have a limit on.
Right.
And that's where they went over that million.
So what do they do? What do they do with that? That's that fine that they will pay us the 25,000 or a penalty, I should say.
No, that's for the dental. The 25,000 penalty, yes, they do have to pay you, but that's for the dental. The 20,000 for the actual Elevance membership, that has to be discussed with LACERA.
Well, we aren't going to go back and collect that from the member, are we?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. They will attempt
They
to
will
do
attempt
that.
to get it back from the member. However, we have not heard anything, so I'd need to check with Anthem to find out what stage they are on that, because we would need to address that with them.
That would be a tough situation to go back and try to get 20,000 from a retiree.
Correct.
So I think we have to figure that out. I don't know, Cassandra, do you know if that person hit the million and obviously changed plans?
I first of all need to find out who that person is. But I'm
Right,
sure
okay.
if they are within California, then we did assist them in making that plan change. I'm just hopeful that
Okay.
this is not one of those
Okay.
that's
Well,
not in the area.
Cassandra, you can see this happening a lot because once you get to $950,000, who knows what the claim amount will be, and it could easily be over $1 million because
Right.
you don't know that for 60 or 90 days or so until you receive the claims.
Right.
So that's something I think we really have to work on so we don't put the member in a big disadvantage.
Yes, I'm going to be reaching out to Anthem to try to find out who that individual is and how they are handling that overpayment.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Next.
Any other questions? Okay, thank
Uh,
you.
Just following up on some of Ron's comments, to further complicate matters, sometimes billing is months behind.
Yep.
So somebody can be sitting there thinking that they've got $900,000 charged and there's $100,000 in outstanding bills. that don't show up for 7 or 8 months. Because I've experienced that myself. Some of the medical providers are just not really efficient in getting the bills out, so.
Yeah, it happens a lot with hospital. I can say that because they're complicated. There's a lot of records involved when you're coding hospital claims. So those do lag. And then if you're thinking about it too, the pharmacy, they still have to coordinate that. If it's a high price drug, they still have to code it, and it still has to go through the channels.
Well, and when you want to talk about doctors and hospitals, the doctors are the little guys when it comes to how much they charge versus how much the hospitals get. And I know that, having gone through what I went through. So the big bucks go to the hospital. So the little bucks go to the doctor that spent 5 hours standing over you, putting you back together again. So they don't make that much. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that that's pretty much ends your
That's my portion.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Amber.
Still have Steve and Mike.
All right, we're on item D, Michael Sito.
Good morning. Can you see my slide? Okay. On the first slide contains the premium and enrollment, and there's been minimal change. Or 1 second. Can you see my slide now? Okay, I think this one. Okay, on the first slide contains the premium and enrollment, and there's been minimal change compared to the prior month's report. The second slide contains the claims experience by carrier. The Anthem non-Medicare year-over-year trend decreased slightly from 6.8% to 6.5% compared to the prior month's report. The Cigna non-Medicare year-over-year trend increased from 9.7% to 10.3% when compared to the prior month's report. And the Kaiser utilization will be updated for the next report. And this contains the Anthem claims experience by plan. For all plans in aggregate, the year-over-year trend decreased slightly from 7% to 6.9% when compared to the prior month's report. And the Kaiser utilization data has remained unchanged from the prior report and will be updated for the upcoming report. And the high cost claimant slide, the Anthem year-over-year trend increased from 150% to 156.3% when compared to the prior month's report. Cigna's year-over-year trend increased from 10.6% to 119.8% when compared to the prior month's report. The Cigna plan consists mainly of a mature population, and the claims experience is subject to variability. On the next slide contains the prescription drug rebates. For 2022, the drug rebates increased slightly by 0.6% to $157 per retiree per month when compared to 2021. And on the next slide contains the dental claims experience. The dental claims trend year-over-year increased from 8.1% to 8.8% when compared to the prior month's report. And the vision claims year-over-year trend remains unchanged when compared to the prior period. Any questions?
I don't see any. Thank you very much. We're on item E, federal legislation. Steve, you're back up.
Steve, you're muted.
It's a great time to practice my presentation, isn't it? So included in your packet is a compliance news update from March 10th. It's associated with the No Surprises Act, which was really targeted towards trying to eliminate surprise billings for individuals that went to emergency rooms. Part of that legislation, though, included some efforts towards transparency, both in terms of price and quality. So part of that is called a gag clause. So basically, the act is going to ban gag clauses that prevent disclosure of price and quality information related to providers and health plans. LACERA staff and Siegel are working with your current vendor partners to make sure that this is completed on time, which will be at no later than 12/31 of this year. So just a quick update for you, and it's included in your packet for reference. After that, we have nothing else to add.
I have a question.
Boy, Vivian.
I was looking at your slides and one of your bullet points was what constitutes a gag clause. Can you explain that?
I'd say historically, there may have been provisions in contracts between insurers and providers that would prevent the disclosure of certain pricing arrangements that were developed. And so the intent of the legislation is to try to remove that so that there's a clear direct line of sight to what costs are, what quality are across providers. So that's the general theme.
So, but to the individual member, does that gag clause apply to them? In other words, when you go to the emergency room, are they told, well, this is going to cost you $50,000 overall? Do they tell them that, or is it just to, I guess, the physicians and hospitals?
It's primarily the contracted rates between, let's use an example, Anthem and a particular medical facility. It's not going to trickle down to the member per se, but it will give the member access to understanding what the costs are across different providers. So if they wanted to choose or had the opportunity to select providers based on cost and quality, they would have a better chance of doing that than we do in today's environment.
Thank you.
Steve, I have one question going to Ron Oakham. It's going back a little bit. It looks like drug costs are going down, with several drugs. Can you predict, or do you have a general idea where our costs will be, for 23 and 24, and how much do you think they will be going down based on what the government's done?
I think the government is targeting to see prices go down. I think the most kind of obvious one is insulin, where we'll see pricing go down or capped for the individual. That may not necessarily be a direct correlation to plan sponsors' costs. The member will have a cost cap, but the cost of the medication itself may continue to rise. And another good example of that would be the fact that there are generic diabetes medications like metformin, very affordable, used almost exclusively or very well by Kaiser on their generic list. But we're seeing, based on some new recommendations regarding diabetic care, the members may be starting to use a combination of different medications that are going to far exceed what the cost of metformin would be. So I would say, I don't foresee drug costs coming down per se. And I think the other thing for us to keep an eye on is the specialty medications, which we do reference occasionally, which are geared towards rare conditions like treating cancer, musculoskeletal conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, et cetera. Those drugs can be very expensive, and we may see fluctuations in your overall spend, but a lot of that is geared towards kind of the case mix that is going on at that particular moment. So we'll have to continue to monitor that, but I think we'll certainly always be under pressure with regard to prescription drug cost increases.
Thanks, Steve.
That it, Steve?
That's all we have.
All right. Thank you very much. We're on item 6, items for staff review.
I have one item. Trustee Gray suggested we create a page-by-page enrollment form tutorial for retiree healthcare.
Okay. Vivian?
Just add to that, not a page by page, not form tutorial, but
yeah.
a video so that our members can sit there, watch the video and do it page by page.
Okay, just the update on, since it's a video, I was thinking of a pamphlet or some sort as well, but the video is in
Reading.
process.
Yeah, I mean, a pamphlet is cool, but you got to read that too.
Yeah.
And when you show somebody a form, they don't look at the title at the
Printing.
very top and all of that. It's like, okay, where do I sign?
Yeah.
But a page by page would really be helpful in terms of a video.
Yeah, we're already working with communications on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Will it be done by next year?
Recall correctly, yes.
Okay, that's good.
That's a really good idea, by the way. Items for future agendas, anything? We are on item 8, good of the order. I'll just kind of go around, start with Ron Oakham, anything on good of the order?
Nothing. I don't have anything, Les. I did check. You're doing well. I'm just great to see you at the meeting and leading this meeting. That says a lot about what your doctors did for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Santos,
That's.
I want to wake you up. This is good of the order, anything?
I was actually reading, so I was looking for a video to short-circuit the reading. No, just good morning, everyone. And it's great to have everybody back in the boardroom. So, and thank you to Cassandra and her staff for the reports.
Vivian?
One thing I just want to say, Les, it's so good to see you. It really is. I don't think everyone realizes the scare that Les gave some of us, and it was a big scare for me. It's great to see you. I mean, I was saying this morning that I've known of Les Robbins since 1978, and that's a long time. And one thing
Sure
I know
is.
about Les, he's a very, very strong person, crotchety at times, but very, very strong. So it's so good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Herman?
Yes, good to see you and really happy. You look really good, actually,
Yes.
physically. So it's wonderful. Like I was saying earlier, right? Bad week and a big kill that is. But God bless you. That's it's wonderful to see that. And I just want to make a little comment on the video. You know, when you go to YouTube, you can find any type of video that's going to help you do whatever, fixing any machines or anything like that. So I think Vivian's idea is right on. We need to go to the basics, quite frankly. I don't care whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, or somebody fixing the sewers. We all need that type of whole hand type of, because we want to get it done right. And so I support this suggestion. I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Alan, you just came here just in time for good of the order, so.
It is, as always, wonderful to see everyone, but I'm not going to comment on what I didn't listen to. So I'm just glad to be here with everybody.
JP?
Well, I'll echo everyone's comments and glad to have Les back. It's good to have him within arm's distance now, so I can pull him down from time to time, but it's good to have him back and his expertise to guide this group. So welcome back, and I'm just glad to be here.
Chair.
It's kind of weird to be back. Couldn't remember what time to leave the house to get here in plenty of time. Then I realized that number 3 and 4 lanes on the 210 freeway they're a tire wreck. They're a mess. Then when I got here, I didn't recognize the elevators on the inside because they've all been changed. And then I had to think, okay, are we on the 8th floor? I guess that one right. I'm going, it's either 6 or 8. So anyway, it's good to be back.
Because I told you yesterday.
I know, and
I
I forgot. So, that's another problem of getting old. So anyway,
I could have tricked you. Oh, it's 5.
it was almost called you. It's all good. So anything for good of the order?
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else have anything?
I just wanted to make one comment. 1978, you said? Just to put that in perspective, I was in the 8th grade
Who asked
in
him?
1978. But
She and I were out fighting crimes.
There you
on
go.
the streets of LA County. So doing our thing.
Dodging bullets.
Louis, you have anything for good of the order?
No, just off that.
Young lady? Stephen?
Wonderful to see you back, and thanks again for your time today.
Okay, well, I think ready for a motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned.